Okay, we are live streaming. I'm going to call the meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to remind council and municipal staff that this meeting is being live streamed to the public. All council meetings are also recorded. Recordings will be available to the public on the township's YouTube account. Physical attendance of the public at this meeting is restricted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is held electronically under Bylaw 2020-70 to amend Procedural Bylaw 2018-117 pursuant to Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. We'll move to the adoption of the agenda, and we have an amendment to the agenda. Under 10.2.5, it will be an email from David Henstock dated November 17th, 2020 regarding 1050 Mill Street. And further for council's information, at 1 p.m. we will be going in camera. So with that, the recommendation is that the council and committee agenda for Tuesday, December 1st, 2020 be approved as amended. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Bromwich. All those in favor? And that's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest this morning?
None.
None here.
Okay.
None here.
Seeing none. We don't have any delegations either this morning, so we're going to move into standing committees. All recommendations from the standing committees are recommendations to council and are pending the approval of council at a subsequent meeting. Our first standing committee is the Operations, Roads and Waste Management Committee, and I will turn it over to Chair Bromwich.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, we have no municipal reports, correspondence and information, none. We have 5.3 unfinished business. We have, if I can just get to it here, 3 items, 5.3.1, 5.3.2, 5.3.3. 5.3.1, we have a letter from the County of Renfrew regarding our request for parking on Commermere Road. And everybody has a copy of that. Do you want me to read that out, or would Sue like to read it, or doesn't matter, right? We have a statement from Renfrew County that our request for parking on Commermere Road was not approved by Renfrew County.
If I may, through the chair,
sure.
Possibly the operations manager could speak to this.
Okay, if we could, we get Hillary on that. Morning, Hillary.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome
Morning.
to Canada. So, as requested, I sent that subsequent to our Saint meeting, I sent the resolution, and it came back now. They're denying some parking spots on the county on the site. 3 reasons, A, B, C. A is about the business area to lead more pedestrians. B, the sight lines to the east are of concern. And C, winter snow removal would be a concern, as the parking lot, we never asked for a parking lot. We asked for parking spots in my correspondence. Would eliminate the snow storage for this area. That's the concerns they brought back. Okay. They're denying it.
Thank you. To you, Ernie.
Yeah, I really like to address this this issue, because this didn't just come apart as, and I think in one of the information that was provided to the county that those initiative brought forward by myself. This initiated with a group of people, including this information actually came from staff about the availability of this particular property as potential parking. So I merely followed it up with one of my reports, and the comment about it, they addressed the fact that we're looking for a parking lot where could create issues with people backing out onto the traffic. That's not the case at all. I think that particular property we're looking at is fairly large. As a matter of fact, we don't need the full extent of from Hargraves Lane all the way down to the park. That's not required at all. And as a matter of fact, part of that property is already being used as as parking. It's parallel to the road, not a parking lot where you'd be backing in and pulling out, merely using it what it's being used for right now. And the business across the road, the laundromat and the little restaurant, every other day I see a truck parked along there, a log truck or a transport truck with logs or whatever, or wood or whatever in vehicles, because there's not enough parking within their parking lot. So they walk across the road and that's where they park. I have never seen them put snow there. I don't believe the township puts snow there. So what I'm seeing is I think there's a lot of misinformation here. I think we're only looking at from Hargraves Road to the first driveway, which right now the people that now own the property have parking. They are parking a school bus in that property, in that driveway. We're only talking about a couple of 100 feet. We're not talking about 500 feet or 600 feet, which takes you down to the corner, which could perhaps create an issue with cars coming around there. We're merely talking about trying to regulate something that's already been used. So, and here we're running late into the year. And what I'm wondering is if we could just keep this file open. We may want to respond to their answer, but it seems like that was, there's a lot of misconception about exactly what we're doing there. And as I say, we're not doing any, and as a matter of fact, many occasions, there's people parking further down towards the park when the Madonna House have their sales on. Right now, there's nothing. It hasn't been since COVID, but that will start up again. So people park, there's not enough parking on 517 and in the parking lot at Madonna. So they park there and walk across the road, okay? I'm sure everybody has seen that. So all I'm saying is that we really right now, we're trying to get some things settled in right down in the village core. There's several buildings under construction and opening up, and let's see what the spring is going to bring because this is all come about as a result of requiring extra parking, whether it's an overflow from the docking area or whatever. But there's some new businesses. The motel has been bought. That's been opening. It's going to be opening up apparently for something that's on the same side of the road. So we already have pedestrians crossing the road. And it'll always be that way in a small town like that. So anyway, I'm not inclined to just want to accept this report and say this is it, final. But I would like to keep this open and have a further discussion towards the spring and early summer and see exactly, because it's all about need. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. To you, Mayor Love.
Yes, well, the county has left the door open to having that discussion and I would suggest in the spring when there's an opportunity to look at the lay of all the land once again, because they are open to discussing alternatives. And so perhaps our staff could get back in touch with Public Works and suggest that there be a site visit in the spring to look at the entire downtown area of Combermere to see if there are any areas that the county would be amenable to having the municipality install parking. I think that would be the best way. They are open to having that discussion, so why not actually do that? If they have their reasons why this particular piece isn't going to work, perhaps there's something else that could be discovered. So I think it's worthy of pursuing it from that perspective and taking them up on the fact that they are open to discussing alternatives and just see what comes of that meeting. Thoughts?
Yeah, I would suggest that the major point here that they were making when we did the site study down at Combermere was the liability factor of parking on the side of the road and crossing it. With the sight line of that corner, there's unfortunately, people do not follow the speed limit there. And the one statement that was made there, if a young lad jumped out of the car, they parked the car and ran across the road, liability issues for Renfrew County and our township would be astronomical if he got hit by a car. And there has been instances people actually had to jump back off that road. They shouldn't be parking there to start with, but You're right, we can explore other options this spring. If we did a complete study of that whole area, maybe there's another option there we can use that wouldn't give us a liability issue. I see you had your hand up, Sue. Would you like to make a statement here?
Oh, I did. So I can, to the mayor's point, add an action item for staff to schedule a site meeting in the spring. Having said that, I think after the meeting, I will forward back the report to Lee Perkins. Just for clarification, there is wording differences. The recommendation did say we were seeking parking spots, that we wanted parking along County Road 62 north side of Hargreaves Lane in an easterly direction. However, the minutes that we also attached referenced it as a parking lot. So to Councilor Poplinski's point, we'll just clarify that it wasn't assumed that it was a parking lot. The resolution from the county tells me that they referenced it as parking, not a parking lot, but we'll go ahead and send that ahead now. So that they have that clarification from us. Is that suitable?
Thank you, Sue. You want to say something, Mayor Love?
I was waiting to listen to what Sue said, but basically the county does deal with these sort of situations. I know there's one in Greater Madawaska where parking along the side of the road is an issue, and so the county will work with us to see what can be done. And I think it's important to recognize that it may not be specifically what was asked for that we end up with, but as long as we end up with some solution to the issue of not having sufficient parking, that would be, I think that's the best outcome we can hope for. So.
Okay, we'll look into it in the spring then.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, folks. Any other comments from council? And we can move on with this next issue here, which is a mutual assistance agreement with the County of Renfrew, and we can maybe get Corey and to make comments on this.
It's not Corey.
This is just an update on our mutual agreement, I believe, with Renfrew County, or is it a completely new agreement?
If I may, through the chair, this would be the operations manager. This came out of a meeting
Oh,
at the
okay.
County of Renfrew. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. So this agreement, so it was suggested with COVID-19 upon us, if staff gets ill over this, to have a plan in place. And obviously, it would be very difficult for one of our trucks to go to another township easterly at a great distance. But I believe that this has merit in it. With abutting townships, we certainly could assist even the county if some of their drivers get ill, and also our drivers. We could assist, say, like Siberia Road, Cumber Road, with KHR, the abutting roads, BLR. I believe it is a workable solution. It could come in play if we do get COVID-19. So in theory, this will work, but I believe that you'll never see a Madawaska Valley truck leaving the area and going, say, to, I'm just using that as an example, to Renfrew or Eganville. It'd be very difficult. First of all, you wouldn't have a clue where you're going. The roads are dynamic, they're individual to each township. And also under the Highway Traffic Act, you would be short of hours. But locally, I believe that this is a good item. And of course, it's just a draft. And also, say like a tornado would hit, much like what happened to us here. I did see a lot of townships here. They were assisting in 207. So it's a great thing to have without going through the formalities. Because snowstorms are very quick and dynamic. You can't get council's permission and recommendations and solutions in 5 minutes. So this would give you that agreement in principle, and you can try something.
It is a mutual agreement, like it's worked both sides. So if we have a problem down our way, we could request Brantford County maybe to help us out with our problems. So I think it's a good deal. Anybody else would like to comment on it? Any other counselor? To you, Mayor Love?
I think conceptually it's a great idea. However, I'd like to go through the agreement and point out some areas that I would like clarified with this, in a response back to them. Just even starting with, I'll use the page numbers in our agenda. On page 11, it says mutual assistance means the provision of personnel, services, equipment, or material during an emergency by a responding party. So it doesn't identify clearly, is this exclusive to public works or could it include office personnel, for example? So right off the bat, the presumption is it's public works, but it doesn't specifically state that. It then goes on to define a receiving party and a responding party. But in the document, the receiving party is also called the requesting party and the assisted municipality. The responding party is also called the assisting municipality. This is confusing. Pick a term, use one. Because I found myself going, what are they talking about? What are they talking about? So one term, define it for those receiving assistance and for those providing it, and then use it throughout the document. That would be helpful. A little further down, 2.1a, mutual assistance shall be supplied at no cost to a receiving party. This should be clarified because as you read the document, you find out there is a cost to the receiving party. So it should be clarified to state at no cost to a receiving party unless otherwise provided in this agreement. I would suggest, I think the idea here was that the municipality wouldn't have a surcharge. So we wouldn't, have a flat rate where we were charging them more than the actual costs that we were putting out. But there are costs associated with assisting. Let me see. To clarify some of that, it does refer to salaries. I'm just going back through here. Okay, one sec. Page 16. Let's see. I find page 16, 8.1 to 8.3 are problematic. It makes sense to include reimbursement to a responding party for use of equipment or supplies in this agreement. If these expenses are paid for by the requesting party, then they form part of the expenses eligible for disaster recovery assistance, for example. Accounting for equipment expenses could help put the requesting municipality over the 3% of own purposes taxation minimum, and then get them to that point where they are going to be successful in their application. So why would we leave equipment and supplies out of this agreement and not reimburse the responding party? So I would suggest that the assisting municipality could be reimbursed for supplies at cost and for the equipment used at let's pick a standard rate like the MTO rate. If you're having the emergency, you understand that if you're calling in other municipalities to help you, there will be a cost to it. And to me, it only makes sense to clearly document that cost because it's going to help you when you're doing your application, should it be that kind of an emergency. And then my other point, okay, page 17 at the very top, it refers to per diem shall be no less than the assisted municipality pays for its own employees as a matter of policy or agreement. Well, does the responding municipality become responsible for any difference between the per diem they normally pay to their staff and the amount paid by the assisting municipality? Again, that's not very clear. Why would it not be paid out at the rate that the municipality providing assistance normally pays to their staff? Their staff would have a concern if they were going to be paid less for accommodations or meals than they normally get. And also on that page, it says the assisting municipality shall remain responsible for all statutory required deductions, contributions, and/or payments such as EI and CPP. Okay, so someone else is paying the wages, but we're covering all the deductions. How does that make sense? We may be responsible for remitting it, but surely it should be part of what is paid for by the municipality that's requesting assistance. Okay, and 10.2, where it says each party agrees to review the provisions of this agreement with its appropriate local bargaining units for the purpose of seeking amendments to local agreements, if necessary, to reflect the terms of this agreement. Question to staff. What are the chances of us getting an amendment to our contract?
Mhm.
We tried to get a friendly amendment that was going to assist, and we're turned down. So the chances of us getting an amendment to go along with this agreement are pretty slim. Odds are, if anything in this agreement contradicts or is in opposition to our current contract with the Public Works staff, it's going to have to be negotiated the next time the contract comes up. And is there any, I'm going through everything, and then I will, that way I've given you everything I had. Just double check there's nothing else. I think there was one more. Oh, no. Okay. That was everything I had when I went through it. So I think if those things are addressed and it's made very clear that if you're providing assistance, that your costs are covered because there's no reason why your taxpayers should be footing the bill, then I don't have a concern with this. And I think that can be clearly identified in the agreement. And oh, and the one thing that did pop into my mind is also overtime. Because if staff is leaving here and they've already done 40 hours here and they're going to assist another municipality, we're now into overtime and who covers the overtime. So that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Love. Ernie, you got your hand up?
Yes, I just want to say I concur with the mayor. I think that she's raised some very valid points. But what I'm also looking at this, we have a large or a long history of mutual aid experience dealing with fire departments with our surrounding municipalities. But I'm just wondering, is there any place in Ontario where someone has actually tried to do this? Because we certainly don't want to invent the wheel if you know, we don't need to. I can understand the benefit behind it, but I think could take us down a road which we don't really want to go. So I think the areas of concern mentioned by the mayor, but also if there are some other places that have actually implemented something like this, I would love to know. Thank you.
I was going to bring that point up too with Hillary. Does Renfrew County have a mutual agreement with any other township, Hillary? Do you know of? Or is this a new?
Well, I believe that this has evolved with the COVID-19 issue.
Okay,
And we're thinking outside the box.
I think we have to designate if there's an emergency, we could possibly put this mutual agreement to work here.
Yes.
But the points that Mayor Love made are valid points. We know how tough it is to get a mutual agreement with all the fine points in it. We went through that with Hastings and the fire mutual agreement took 2 years, 3 years to get that fine tuned. Because there's an awful lot of things we don't expect to happen that could happen on the job. Like what about destruction of equipment while it's being worked on? Who pays for that? This is some of the issues that came up at Hastings Highlands, and they were good points to be made, and we worked it out. So I think our fire mutual agreement, fire services with mutual agreement would give us some points we could fill in here for protection. The biggest thing was liability. Who is accepting liability if somebody gets injured on the job? What happens if the equipment is ruined on the job or damaged on the job? Who pays for that? So it's a great idea, but I think we have to designate that this mutual agreement does not come into play unless there's an emergency, and COVID-19 might just be the one that triggers it. So I don't know where we stand on this. What do you think? We should leave it up to staff to kind of fine tune it for us, or to you, Mark? Some thoughts here?
I think overall it's a good idea. I think it's good to have these type of agreements in place. But I do think the mayor raised many, many good points, and I think it needs to be reviewed further and amended. But I think overall it serves a positive and good purpose. I think it's just ironing out all the details to make sure we're properly covered.
To you, Mayor Love?
And that was my point exactly. We certainly have, as a municipality, we have, as the chair mentioned, we had to work through the issues to come to a mutual agreement with Hastings Highlands in terms of fire service. I don't think this is any different. I think bringing clarity to the agreement is only going to make it a stronger agreement. So none of the points I raised aren't easily addressed and identified in the agreement we finally sign. It's just that this particular draft, I would consider it very much a first draft, and it's our experience of other agreements and our knowledge of the kind of weeds one can get into that actually brings me to raise all the points I raised. And I would hope that if we were to clarify all those points, we could actually enter into this. This sort of agreement could be a huge assistance to Madawaska Valley should we have another emergency in which we did need some help from either an adjacent municipality or from the county of Renfrew. And certainly if we're having the emergency, I understand that it would end up being Madawaska Valley's cost, that we would be paying for that assistance. If we're providing the assistance, I think it's no less than what our taxpayers would expect, that we would be compensated fully, and that the liability issues would be covered while we were providing assistance to another municipality, right? There's no concern with us doing it, I don't think, but certainly we have to be mindful of the fact that providing that assistance does cost. So I think all of these things can be worked out in the agreement, and I'd certainly like staff to take it back and have some discussion with the County of Renfrew about how to make this a better agreement before they bring it back to us again.
To you, Sue?
If I may suggest an amendment to the recommendation, that council directs staff to further review the County of Renfrew draft mutual aid agreement and forward council comments to the review committee, and that staff bring back amendments for council consideration at an upcoming meeting.
I'll so move that recommendation, if I could, please. And to you, Mayor Love?
I will second it.
Okay, as further discussion, I just want to make sure here, Renfrew County must have exactly the same kind of concerns that we do. So I think between Hillary and his contact up there, they could work out something to protect both parties in this. And is there any other further comments from council on this?
No.
I see none. Could I call a vote then? All in favor? And that is passed with the amended version. Thank you very much. One more item here on this, I think. Just give me a second here. I'm kind of lost. Cog Lake Road progress updates. I'll let you speak on that, Hillary. Good news, almost good news.
Pretty good news. 90% good news. So the paving is all complete. No more black stuff is going to be put down. Paving, hot mix. So it is complete. There's a few tie-ins and a little bit of shouldering on this end, tie-ins to driveways, and just some fixes, and it is completed. They may have to come back next year under the terms of the agreement, just for some tidying up and rake-ins, but it is complete.
Good news. To you, Mayor Love.
It's fantastic to hear that the 99.9% of it is complete. Will we get some assurance from the company that they will be returning first thing in the spring to complete? Because I wouldn't want to wait, be waiting and, find it fall before they came back to do that tidying up and that painting.
It would be under the contract and the performance guarantee that they must return in the spring.
Okay.
To you, Mark. You're muted. I don't know.
Yep. Hillary, just a question for you. It's 99% complete, but are you satisfied with work that was done? Have we checked it out and made sure that it's all properly done and up to the standards we want?
Yes, it has been through the contract administrator. He firmly believes that it was properly done.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on that? All I can say is thank goodness it's done. And to you, Mayor, to you, Dave Hughes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Listen, we're quite happy with the new super highway. That's kind of like our 401 now, right? We have choices here where I live. Right, we can take the country road to Wilno, the gravel road, or we can take the super highway to Barry's Bay. So, no, job well done. Everybody's happy. So, good report. Thank you.
Okay, any further comments on that? If not, I'll turn it back over to Mayor Love.
Okay, thank you, Chair. With that, then our next section is operations, water and wastewater and facilities, and I'm going to turn it over to Chair Schulist.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. We have municipal reports, 6.1.1 performance report, Barry's Bay Drinking Water System and Barry's Bay Wastewater Treatment Center. This is a third quarter of 2020. You have in your package this report here. Is Ashley going to speak on it? Because I mean, I went through it. I don't see a problem. So maybe I could hand it over to Ashley and maybe let us in a little bit more on this. Thank you.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us today. As Mr. Schulist alluded to, there's really not a whole lot of issues with anything. Everything has been very well. Scott, do you want to briefly blow through the report for council, please?
Yeah, I can do that. Hi, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Just quickly, I'll go through each section of the report. So first we have the dashboard, which will go back and show us, some reminders about issues we've been having and kind of give an update on what they are. So you can see the water plant's been working well this year. We have all the green circles, which green circles are good. And then the wastewater side, we did have in the second quarter some issues with phosphorus where we had some non-compliances. During the summer months, we've resolved those issues, and actually our phosphorus levels have been easily managed now. More than just within compliance, we've been controlling it well and been able to make adjustments and have the adjustments that we make work the way we want them to. So that's been really good. And we can see there's still the ongoing health and safety issues at the plant. We have everything, we have like mediations in place, I guess. The risk isn't so bad right now. We have workarounds, I guess would be the word for it, but there's still issues where we have to resolve completely. But until then, we have procedures in place to make sure that everyone's working safe. The next section of the report, this is page 1 under compliance excellence. I put down for the wastewater plant, we had 2 objective exceedances, which were both for ammonia. So I guess I'm reporting the exceedances, but it's a good thing to notice here that there is no phosphorus exceedances of even the objective through the summer. Which is a low number, 0.1 is our objective, and we were under 0.1 for phosphorus for the entire summer, and we still remain that way now. And we had 2 objective exceedances for the ammonia, which if you remember back a year or so, or even 2 years ago, we had a lot of issues with ammonia. And just to kind of highlight, if you look at our result versus our objective, it's very close. So although we are exceeding the objective a little bit, we are still well under any limits, and of seeing, like, at least we're able to control things now, and everything's working the way we would expect it to. Just down the next page 2 outlines the flows, both for the water plant and the wastewater plant. You can see the kind of dotted line I added as the 5-year average, like the 5-year trend. So, and you see the solid line almost follows that 5-year average. So we're seeing really consistent flows in the water and the wastewater from year to year, and that's really good to see. We don't have anything on the radar and we're well under our rated capacities and limits. Page 3 goes into some of the work we've done. You can see again in the top chart, it compares the work that's being completed and the guys put down what type of work it is, and we classify it as preventative maintenance and capital and operational things. So you can see again, our preventative maintenance is prevailing. That's what we're mostly doing, which is what we want to do. We would much rather be doing things preventatively than reacting to and having to do corrective maintenance a lot. So it shows that our preventative maintenance program is working well, and we have some corrective maintenance, but that's to be expected, but very low numbers, 4 and 5. The operational maintenance, that what we're using that for is things like locates and service requests and everything that comes up that's not really part of a preventive maintenance program, but it's just day-to-day work. So you'll see in the water, there's quite a bit more operational maintenance, and a lot of that is locates. Because during the summer months, construction work's going on, and there's a lot more of the guys getting called away to do some locates and different operational type activities like that. So that's reflected in the chart. I've listed the capital work that did get done over the summer. And then the next two charts, we have our distribution and collection maintenance, which shows some curb stop repairs and stuff that was done, some small leaks that were repaired. And the next chart would again be our complaints and services. So we did have 4 complaints, all related to color all through the summer. We during our management review meeting that took place a couple of weeks ago, we put an action towards that we're gonna investigate where these color complaints are coming from, because we have plants operating well and everything's good there. It's time to maybe dive a little deeper into where these color complaints are coming from. So that's something that's on our radar, and we're gonna hope to reduce the amount of complaints to do with color from the clients. Attached as an appendix again is our PARS reports that will give you a little bit more in-depth look at how the plants are running. And I guess I could just ask if anyone has any questions.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, you are muted.
Ashley is laughing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta love it. I've always got a question or two, but just so I understand better. On page 1 of the report, under health and safety, it says replace hardware on digester and biosolid storage tank covering. Is that something that's outstanding that needed to be done and we haven't done it? Or I'm trying to remember. I remember the catwalks very clearly on the second point, but I'm not sure about that one.
No, Kim, what it is it's some fasteners that are starting to corrode, and they've just been noted that they should be replaced in the upcoming months. So we will just order the fasteners and nuts and bolts and replace them. Not a big deal. It's just they're just starting to corrode. It's not that they're falling off by any means.
Okay. So I haven't actually seen that point before.
Okay.
Right. Not that I recall. Anyways, I was just surprised because it was dated December of 2019, but maybe I don't recall seeing it. That's fine. I just was curious on that one. On page 3, we excavated a water leak near Lakeshore Drive. Was that in the park itself?
It was at the corner of the park in the parking lot, right on the 90-degree corner. And it was
Okay.
on the service line that was feeding, there is one residence there, right across from the beach, I believe. And that's a 2-inch poly line, 1.5 inches, that runs all the way from roughly the sewage plant under the road down over to that residence.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't our recently installed washroom in the park.
No, it wasn't that one.
Just checking,
Mhm.
hoping that would last a little longer than that. And then just my final question with this color issue. It's my understanding you do a regular flushing of the dead ends of our system because there are dead ends. Am I correct on that?
You are correct in that, but we also do, we do it twice annually. But in one of those, either the spring or the fall, we flush every hydrant in the entire system until, like, for a certain parameter of time, 10 minutes typically, until a certain residual is met, and that we don't feel there's any more color coming. Yeah, so once a year they do all the dead ends, and then once a year they do everything, including the dead ends again.
Okay, so your investigation of color could be pretty challenging because you're already doing some maintenance to ensure that there isn't any color.
Correct.
Okay, no, just I wanted to verify that point because I was pretty certain that you did do that flushing on a regular schedule. So thank you. That was all I wanted to verify.
Okay.
All right. Any other counselor have any concerns? Any questions? Not seeing any. Thank you very much, Scott and Ashley. Oh, I see a hand up, Madam CEO.
If I may, just again, and I'm sure we're doing it, just a reminder to ensure that the deputy treasurer is always notified of the amount of volume that we use when we're doing flushing and when we have those operational items, because we are trying to track our volumes and being a little bit more accurate as to what those flushing activities generate as part of volume. So I think that's happening already, correct?
Yes, it
sorry.
guesstimate. Sorry.
Go ahead.
How much water is lost during the flushing programs?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Mayor has a question.
Yeah, so we are doing that in order to ensure that that water is paid for through the municipality. Is that correct? It's not
Yes.
paid for by the customers. Okay,
That's correct.
thank you.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, listen, thanks again, Scott and Ashley, for a great report, and keep up the good work. Thank you. I see a recommendation now, Madam CAO. I know it's just as information. Do we need a motion on it?
Yes, if I may, through the chair, I'll read it for council consideration, that council accept the Barry's Bay drinking water system and Barry's Bay wastewater treatment center third quarter 2020 performance report as information.
All right, like a motion. Madam Mayor, and second by Councillor Wilmer. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? It is carried. All right. 6.2 correspondence and information. There is none. 6.3 unfinished business. There is none. I guess
If I
I'm finished
may.
with my report. Oh, hold on. I see a hand, Madam CEO.
If I may, through the chair, there is a report forthcoming at the next council meeting. Just an update as to the completion of the water meter installation and to bring council forward with the status of the arrears on the water wastewater, as well as bringing you some samples and templates of some of the reporting that we're getting out of the new water metering project. I think you'll find, and we've actually have benefited on a couple of occasions since the new water meters are installed, the type of reporting that we can now get, which includes daily, intermittently reports as to each any meter that we may have issues with. So I think you just wanted to inform you that the Deputy Treasurer will be bringing that forward at the next council meeting.
Thank you very
We're
much.
very pleased with the outcome of the installation, and we want to thank Aqua for your assistance with that as well. But definitely Neptune gets a very high reference from Madawaska Valley and staff. We worked very well with them, and we've received no complaints from customers, any issues or concerns. They dealt with the customer as well as involved staff in those discussions. So we're very pleased. So I look forward for that report to come before council.
All right. Listen, job well done. Great report. Just keep up the good work. Much appreciated. I think we're finished with this committee here. Back to you, Mayor Love.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate you being here. Okay, our next committee is Fire and Protection and Emergency Management, and I'll turn it over to Chair Poplinski.
Thank you, Mayor Love. And we're dealing with 7.1 municipal reports and pages 35 to 114 in your package. And it's the dealing with the fire and protection and emergency management municipal reports. And I'm just wondering if we could call upon our deputy clerk, Gwen, to speak to her report.
Okay, I'm on it now. So the report is for compliance for 2020. We haven't changed anything in the emergency plan, and I was just asking for a resolution from council that they did review it and that they don't have any concerns with it.
If I may, Gwen, just take a second here. And, we weren't able to have any, because of the COVID, the usual emergency planning session dealing with a specific, is there something in the works that we, because hopefully this COVID is not going to go on forever, but at least we have something in mind that we would be looking at down the road?
We don't have anything planned right now just because of the difficulty with the Zoom meeting. We can. We're just kind of hoping that maybe towards the end of 2021 that it might be a little easier to do an emergency tabletop.
Okay.
Not sure, Corey, if you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, it's for 2020. The province has it gives an exemption for that. They will look forward towards to having a tabletop exercise in 2021, but this year we are exempt from it. All municipalities are, unless they did it prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we do got a paper stating that from the Emergency Management Ontario, so we will be compliant that way. Other than that, we would have had a tabletop exercise, or probably back in March, right before the COVID hit. That's what our plan was for that at that point. But we will have something in the new year guaranteed.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, so we can accept this as information. And yes, Mayor Love, I noticed you have your hand up.
Yes, sorry about my co-pilot there, who appeared on screen. Just a couple of questions, having reviewed this again. Where we have contact information for the Municipal Emergency Control Group, I wanted to know, do we include cell phone numbers and home numbers? And any alternate numbers that we might need to ensure we're doing our best to contact those individuals. I haven't seen that list in a long time. And then also in relation to that, I noticed under the duties of the mayor, I'd like to know that there's an up-to-date list of contact information for everyone that I'm supposed to contact once an emergency is declared. That's not something I actually have in my possession. I wouldn't mind receiving a copy of it, so that I'm not scrambling to find the correct number for MPP Cheryl Gallant or MP Cheryl Gallant or MPP John Yakubuski, whatever number I'm supposed to use, because yeah, it would just be really helpful if I had that information. So those 2 points, I just wanted to find out if we're keeping that information up to date. We're including alternates, because I know, for example, with yourself, Chief, occasionally when we need to get a hold of you, we do use your home phone number because you aren't where there is cell service. So are the lists very inclusive, and is there a list for the mayor of who I'm supposed to contact, and could I get a copy of it, please?
I'll have a copy for you. I've been working on it. I've been updating everything, so you will have a copy of that. It'll be like a phone book when I give it to you.
Fantastic.
Yes, and thank you, Chief. And if we could include also the review for everyone, because we've had maybe some new employees that may be part of their responsibility, and there's been people that have left, and also dealing with perhaps even the county people. There seems to be a lot of changes there, so that the new list will reflect all of those changes. So I think it's very timely to have that.
Definitely, everybody will have it.
Deputy Clerk will look after that. Any further questions at all about this report? Not seeing any, we can accept it then as information. Okay. And
sorry, Councillor Poplinski, could we get a resolution on that? We'll need that for the compliance.
Certainly. Okay. Can I have resolution? Somebody to move the, I can do so, and I'm looking for a seconder. Okay, Councillor Wilmer seconds. Any further comment? CAO, did you have your hand up?
I did, was just through the chair going to read so that the Emergency Response Plan Bylaw 2019-112 has been reviewed and accepted as presented.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
that's now done, and so no further comments? Okay, motion is granted.
Can we vote?
We're going to.
Can we vote?
no,
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, Chair, could we actually vote so it's
Just having a
official?
little difficulty hearing you here.
Yeah, could we actually vote so it's official?
Oh, yes, yes. Can I have a vote on this? All in favor?
Thank you.
Motion is granted. We've got 7.2, there's no correspondence, and I don't see anything on finished business unless there's some other questions from the committee. I don't see any hands up, so I assume there isn't. So thank you, Mayor Love, and I'll pass the gavel back.
Okay, thank you, Chair Faflinski. Our next section is Recreation and Community Development Committee, and I'm going to turn it over to Chair Wilmer.
Thank you, Mayor Love. First of all, I'd just like to let everyone know that Stephanie is not here. She is attending the ICIP webinar that is being held today from 10:30 to 12. Sue?
May I suggest we do have Silas on the webinar or on our Zoom as well. Would it be, with council indulgence, could we go to either to the planning section and come back to the recreation?
Yes.
That would be fine, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were going to do that first before recreation. So I apologize there, Chair Wilmer. I guess we will do planning matters and statutory meeting under the Planning Act. We have municipal reports, 9.1.1, memo from the Manager of Planning, Development and Licensing dated November 13th, 2020 regarding a shoreline road allowance closure application on Trout Lake. Owner applicant 2222629 Ontario Incorporated, Mark Snyder. Part of Lot 20 Registered Plan 539 in the geographic township of Jones in the township of Madawaska Valley in the county of Renfrew. Location, end of Mitchell Road, rural route number 2, Barry's Bay, Ontario. Mr. Lerbetsky, did you want to speak to this? Oh, maybe we caught him off guard.
Elvis has left the building.
And Stephanie has returned.
Yes, he doesn't want to speak. Really quickly.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
My apology, Madam Mayor. I'm having technical difficulties as everyone else. With respect to the item on the agenda, it is just the required consent under the bylaw. It is to establish the boundary limit between municipal road allowance and the Snyder property.
And it's just an extension of the property line?
That is correct.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Did you want to read the recommendation or shall I get Sue to do it?
If Sue could do it because of my technical difficulties here.
Okay, that's not a problem.
Thank you.
Except hopefully not a problem for Sue.
Through the chair, that council approve of the boundary limit as a straight line projection of the road allowance boundary and hereby authorize the execution of the required Schedule C by the mayor and CAO clerk. Okay, could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Wilmer, seconded by Councillor Schulist. Any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. We don't have any correspondence and information or outstanding matters to my knowledge in the planning section. Is there anything further, Mr. Lerbetsky?
No, there isn't, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll let you carry on with your very busy day.
Thank you.
And I see we do have Stephanie. I'm hoping we have Stephanie. So if we could go back to Recreation and Community Development Committee, and I'll turn it over to Chair Wilmer again. Okay, Mark, you're muted.
Yeah.
I was talking to myself. Okay. We have 5 items. So we'll start with item 8.11, which is the Lakeshore Tennis Club meeting minutes. Stephanie, would you like anything on that? I think they're fairly straightforward. It looks like they had a fairly good year, a small number, but I think it's up from last year, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it is up from last year. So, and I think we expected that with having a student down there. So they had an increase in their memberships as well as their day pass memberships. So this is their end of year that they usually submit for them. So I just wanted to pass that along to council for your interest.
All right, do we
There's
have
any questions?
Any questions on the report? Mayor Love?
You're muted.
You're muted.
They give you a mute button with these headsets, and then you go and use it all the time and forget to turn it on. I apologize. The first part of the report says discuss township points to be forwarded for action. Do we know what action the Lakeshore Tennis Club is looking for? Because I've read through the points and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's just their way of passing along information to me, because I wasn't part of the meeting. So the answers to the questions that they posed are pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned, and I've kind of given them that information. I'm not sure if there was a specific thing that you were looking at, or
I wasn't sure what actions they were looking for. So if staff feels they've addressed the actions that the Lakeshore Tennis Club is looking for, I'm happy with that. I just didn't want to miss out on or misunderstand something and then have it later come back to council saying you didn't respond or act on what we asked. The other thing I wanted to ask about, or I actually spoke to the treasurer about yesterday, is the financial component of their report, which is very confusing at best to me, because it looks like they have negative money, but in actual fact, they're a committee of council, and I anticipate that their account balance is not negative. Sue, Amanda doesn't seem to be here, so can you possibly speak to that?
Yes, so Amanda was trying to call in from home, but I'm anticipating that the internet is unstable today. So I just wanted to clarify for council, we ask all committees to give us at year end their final minutes as well as their summary of their activities. This is something that will be coming back to council with a comparison to the actual general ledger. So yes, so they haven't prepared this based on the opening balance and what's in reserve or whatnot. So that will come forward for budget deliberations.
And I think the other note, they did put a negative number there and retained by Madawaska Valley. So themselves don't have that money, right? So you're seeing that money come in because that's what came in, but they don't have that. We do.
Right, Mayor Love?
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering then if we could just get a printout of their account along with that report, because I think that'll make it clear to council. I want it to be very clear to the public as well that petty cash does actually come from the monies that the Lakeshore Tennis Club holds. That's a withdrawal for their use, and that the membership fees are in their account. They haven't sort of become a negative number and vanish. So I'd really appreciate that printout when we get that information. Thank you.
Sue?
If I may, I did get a text this morning from the treasurer saying that she could email all of council a tennis income statement. So she can do that today.
That would be great. All right, if there are no other questions, we do have a recommendation. Sue, could you read it, please?
That council accept the Lakeshore Tennis Club meeting minutes for September 17, 2020.
I have a mover. Councillor Bromwich, and seconded by Councillor Schulis. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, item 8.12 is the Barry's Bay Recreation Committee meeting minutes. And again, there's a few items on it. Councillor Schulis was in attendance, as was Stephanie. So I wonder if either of you have any comments to start with.
Stephanie?
Well, I do, I have follow-up for today. They would like to try to see what they can do. So the minutes reflect what happened at the meeting. And I think they're pretty good pictures. So if there's any questions, you can let me know. In follow-up, after discussing with them that there was no Santa Claus parade this year, they would be interested in trying to move forward with something. And I know it's December 1st. They were thinking they would like to try to do it at the arena. So what I'm asking council this morning, and again, this arrived in my inbox over the weekend, is for permission to use the arena parking lot for a standstill parade that people could drive through or walk through, depending on their situation. I'm not 100% sure they will get the interest they want to be able to run this, but at this point, they'd like to issue an expression of interest to the public and see if there would be any interest. So I just need council's permission to be able to use that parking lot. And the date that they were looking at isn't till December 20th. So that's the Sunday before Christmas.
And Stephanie, they would be working with the county health unit to ensure that everything is followed correctly.
That would flow through me, but yes, yeah.
Thank you. I think it sounds like a great idea. Mayor Love.
It's a great idea, but do we have hockey going on that date or figure skating? Is there going to be an issue with the parking lot already being used?
So they would like to run it in the evening, and it would be lit up. Floats would be the idea. And that the arena that evening would have bookings, but they are limited because of the Christmas holidays. So minor hockey's last day is actually the 19th or 20th. So it is the 20th, sorry. So minor hockey's activities would cease in the afternoon for the Christmas break. And then there would be a few one-off rentals, which would be compressed to earlier in the evening. So there may be a few cars parked in the middle, but I would propose that that be around the outside and the back.
Okay.
All right, are there any further questions? If not, Sue, could you read the recommendation, please?
You're muted.
Apologies. That council accept the Barry's Bay Committee meeting minutes for October 7, 2020, and that council approves the Barry's Bay Recreation request to host a drive-through Santa Claus parade in the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center parking lot on December 20th, conditional to sufficient interest by members of the public.
Could we have a mover, please? Okay, and I'll second it. All those in favor? Carried. All right, item 8.13.
Councillor Wilmer, I didn't catch who moved that.
It was moved by, who moved it?
Doesn't matter.
Councillor Schulis and
Schulis,
Councillor
Councillor
Wilmer.
Schulis, and I seconded it.
Thank you.
Right, item 8.13 is Barry's Bay Visitor Information Center. And Stephanie, this is your report. We can all see numbers are down, but perhaps that was a good thing this year to see that. All right, Stephanie, do you want to speak on that?
Sure. So I just wanted to present council with the report of what we went through this summer at the railway station. And just to say that the students followed the Renfrew County Health Unit guidelines and that the visitors still did come, even though that a lot of them weren't like obviously very often. And just a side note that the farmers market was moved locations too, so that does draw an extra amount of people to the visitor center when they're there. But yeah, so it ran the regular weekends and in September and October. as well as full-time 7 days a week, July and August, and the same hours it did run last year. So I included information on Eganville as well, just so that you could see what they didn't break it down by month, but that's how many visits they had, just so you could see what another visitor information center had this past summer, local to us. And then also I attached the Ontario Visitor Center survey, which was put out in June. I believe it was June 22nd. And it was just kind of like a, hi, how are you? What are you doing with your visitor center this year? And at the end of the survey, they sent us back the summary of highlights. So I just wanted to include that for council so that you had an idea of what we kind of started with going into this summer. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions or.
Any questions, discussion? If not, Sue, could you move or read the resolution, please?
That council accept the Visitor Information Center 2020 report as information.
Okay, could I have a mover, please? Councillor Bromwich and a seconder? Councillor Shoeless, all those in favor? Carried. Right, item 8.14 is the Twinning Committee update, and I'll ask Councillor Shoeless to speak on this.
Okay, thank you, Chair Wilmer. Yeah, some good news. We received a package about a week and a half ago, maybe a little longer, from the community of Lipush, which was sent by their committee in Lipush to our Madawaska Valley Twinning Committee. And in this package is a painting of the Blessed Mother of Lipush from the parish of St. Michael's, the Archangel in the village of Lipush. I've got the painting right here, so I'm going to try and display it, and hopefully we can see it all. It's quite large, actually. Do we see it there? Yeah, so you've got the gist of it. Now there's a letter from the parish priest, Father John Ostrowski, and the mayor of Lipush, Miroslav Ibertasci, and he's asking our committee to present the painting to St. Mary's Church in Wilno, a gift from the parish of St. Michael's in Lipush. Okay, last week, our Twinning Committee had a meeting via internet and discussed this matter, and all the members were pleased to receive this wonderful gift and will honor their request. Now, there was a motion by our secretary, Cynthia Rokuski-Wolfgram, which reads that the Township of Madawaska Valley Lipush Twinning Committee directs Chair Councillor David Shoeless and Councillor Carl Bromwich to present St. Mary's Church in Wilno with this gift received from the Lipush community in accordance to their wish in the letter to our committee. This letter that was written is attached in the agenda. Now, this motion was seconded by member Ed Chippier, and the motion was supported by all the members. So the motion was carried. With the blessing of council, our committee would like to act on this and approach the parish priest at St. Mary's, Father Roman, and the St. Mary's Parish Council, and present this gift to St. Mary's. Now, Councillor Bromwich and I had a little discussion because we're going to do this. There's one thing that's important here is we will try and do our best to make it safe, keeping in mind the COVID-19 protocol. As a parishioner of St. Mary's and the knowledge of the church setting, I feel confident that we can make it very safe. As you know, the church is large enough to safely distance ourselves. We will be recommending that it be done during the week, that there will be not too many people, well, actually be no people around, no masses and so on, and the doors can be locked. So we will be quite safe. We will work with the church leaders. This gift is very special to most of our committee members and, of course, our community. The community of Lipush and Kashubia is home to approximately 80% of the Kashubian families in Renfrew County. Our Kashubian ancestors prayed in front of this icon, like they mentioned in that letter from Lipush. Very special indeed. Our committee is working on a gift from our Madawaska Valley community to send to the community of Lipush. I will bring you a report at our next meeting. Thank you very much and God bless. And there's my report.
All right. So Councillor Schulis, are you asking council to endorse this?
Well, the thing is that we got direction from committee. We brought the committee there, and they're saying that there's direction for us to go and present it because we're just really going by the letter that was written, because that is what the twinning committee in Lipush wants us to do. So, and again, everything has to come to council for approval, I guess. Can we take that next step? Thank you very much.
Sue?
As it pertains to the presentation, I don't believe we need a recommendation. I believe the intent was from the twinning committee was to inform council of the presentation and who would be presenting it.
So this is information. So no, that's wonderful, and it's great to see. So good luck in presenting it in a COVID-safe manner. Mayor Lubb.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask that the committee would please send a thank you letter back to Lipush for the gift. I think that's important that we acknowledge that it safely arrived and that we appreciate the gift. And I'm really pleased to see that the committee will be presenting this gift. Thank you so much for doing this and for doing it in a COVID safe manner. That's super important, that anything that we're doing that may end up being say a photograph in the newspaper or something like that, that it's seen that there's very clear physical distancing and that COVID has been considered, because we are leaders of our community. So I do appreciate the fact that you're taking that into consideration, Councillor Schulis and Councillor Bromwich. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yes,
Councillor Schulis.
Yes, to Mr. Chair, is that yes, very important. The COVID protocols must be adhered to. Yes, and a letter of thank you would be really nice from our committee, but I'll also recommend that the parish also, maybe together we can put something together and show our appreciation. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Bromwich.
Sorry, yeah. I just wanted to mention that our bonds between between us and Lipush seem to be getting stronger, and the idea of a twinning committee usually just is in name only. Many municipalities have twinnings with other municipalities around the world, but this one seems to be very fruitful. And like David was saying, we are going to reciprocate with possibly sending some paintings over to them too from us. So it's starting to become kind of a brotherhood between the two of us, and we start to know each other on first name basis. We have the children over there pen paling with the children over here, and it's just really a positive thing that's happening here with all the hard work that Councillor Schulis was put in here. I really appreciate the work he's done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Sue, did you have something?
I did. I was going to suggest yearly we generally send a welcome and a Christmas, a thank you and a Christmas wish from our municipality to their municipality. Mm-hmm. We could do both. We could include that Christmas wish as well as the letter of thanks. We could do both in the same letter.
Okay.
Good idea.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Councillor Schulis. Okay, we'll move on to 8.15, which is the PJY structural adequacy review and update. I'll ask Stephanie if she could speak on this first.
Okay, so we got the report back, and from what I can see, there's no major issues. I forwarded off to our building department as well as Hillary, and just so that everybody had a view of it when it was draft form, and if there was anything that they saw that they had questions on. I didn't get any questions, so I think for the most part the report speaks for itself. And it basically looks like if we're not doing anything to the building, i.e. right now adding on or anything major, the structure is sufficient the way it is. they did also a note regarding the snow loading questions. So I feel like we've covered that, and we can budget then for 5 years or 10 years to have it done again with the guidelines being followed through ORFA. So what I wanted to do with this report was kind of, I guess, again, remind council of all of the list of things that we have for the arena. Now, when the $100,000 was announced to say that we were going to be getting that, we were under the impression that it would have to be COVID related. So that had me look in a COVID direction for items at the arena. While doing that, you'll notice this report differs from the previous report that I had. So I added a section for COVID additions on page, I'm sorry, I don't know what your page number is in your package, but it's on page 2 of my report. And so it started with refrigeration room exhaust and energy recovering air handling units, that paragraph there. So those are additional to what I had presented council previously. And I just wanted council to have an overall picture of what we're looking at. I was late coming on this meeting because I was attending the webinar for the COVID Resilience Fund. And I have sent an email out as well, just to follow up. And any project, by the sounds of it, that we pick, as long as it is a capital asset owned by the township, it should cover. It should be no problem to apply for. That being said, it is still, as we said earlier, first come, first serve. And they have said that we have a deadline of December 31st, 2022 to have the project completed by. We're considered northern, or we're considered rural, and that gives us an extra year to complete the project. Everybody else has to be done by 2021 December. So that being said, what I wanted to do with this report was give council all the information that I had to date and get your opinion on where it is I should focus my efforts. And you know that we have $100,000. So because it doesn't matter what it is, if there's something that council would like to see that specifically go towards, we can work through that. And then additionally, what else our plans are for 2021. The last resolution I had from council was to not book weddings from April to September 2021, so that we could move forward with the renovation at the arena. So I guess what I need is to find out what it is we should focus our efforts on right now at this point. And if I'm going to go ahead with that, not booking anything and some kind of a renovation. Let me know what your thoughts are.
Okay. Well, my first comment is, I'm not really getting into the big items yet, but have to say I was pleasantly surprised by the report that we needed that before we even considered any work on the arena. So it's nice to know that there aren't any major issues out there. But the report also does list, in addition to these costs that we have, and I look at the priority items, and we may have to limit our funding just to those if we have a method, but even the structural review adds another $155,000 of costs to these costs. So it's huge in scope, the costs that we have over the, and the structural review costs are over the next 5 years are the 20 to 25 projections. So I don't know whether anyone has any comments at this right now. I'd like the mayor. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah. So I think the structural review is certainly something we had to do before we look at committing to borrowing a significant amount of money to make the major repairs that need to happen. And certainly I concur with the chair that what's come back is encouraging. There is work identified there. Certainly going forward, there are two things I'd really like to see staff do. some of the work that's identified between the condition index, the building condition index, and the structural report is minor work that would be considered maintenance work, such as replacing door sweeps or caulking and doing siding repairs. I think it's important that staff makes a list of all of those items and provides council with their plan for accomplishing all those minor repair items, because they are matters that should have been addressed and can be addressed easily. I'd like to see that there's a plan, even if it's going to take a couple of years to do those minor things. Then we can budget accordingly and that work can get done. A lot of it probably by our staff. The second thing that comes to mind looking at all these reports is that there's a number of things that are identified for a certain year or time period, 5 years out, 10 years out. It would be very nice to ensure that all of those items are on one spreadsheet. So very much like the report we got from water and wastewater, where you can look to the future and you can see that in 5 years, there's an estimation that there'll be a need to spend $130,000 on X. So I think those two things need to be developed based on all this great information we've got. A plan to do the little things and a plan that council can see that shows us going forward what's anticipated in the next 20 years. Then we come back to looking at obviously what it is we're going to do in 2021. And I think that's then the next step of our conversation here today, because we do have to start making some decisions. I don't think it matters what we spend the $100,000 on, because we're looking at significantly more than $100,000 that needs to be spent. It's nice to have $100,000 in hand to go against this, but which item we pick will depend on the items we choose from the list that our staff have provided us with of the many things that do need to be done that need to be done now that have come from these reports that we have. So I wanted to get that point forward before we get into the weeds of should we do a kitchen renovation or shouldn't we? Because I think those are things we need to be doing as a municipality, those two things. Thank you.
Yes, no, some good points. And I agree. I think we really have to focus on the major and what our core need is on this. There are many little things that can be done. And I think your idea of putting it into a spreadsheet, I mean, many of the additional items on this are 2025 to 2033. So they're a fair distance off. But we do certainly have the major costs being absolutely necessary if we want to keep that facility running. And I agree, the $100,000, I mean, Stephanie, can it be used? I mean, our replacement of the ice slab is $1 million. Can it be used towards that? Or does it have to be something where it covers the whole cost?
No, from what I'm understanding, it can be used towards that. I can follow that up with an email and question that, but I would assume it should be able to. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. Do any other members of council? Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. And yeah, Stephanie, you mentioned that you're looking for direction in terms of where to focus your efforts. I know it's very challenging right now because of the COVID and so on. We're doing the best we can. And of course, your position is one which, of course, is one of your main functions, of course, is to raise revenue. And we haven't been able to do that because of what's happening. But what I'm trying to get some ideas to down the road. I mean, this is going to come to an end. So I'm always looking at what are the plans for the future. And so what are we doing? Are we going to wait until the day, whether it's 1 month, 2 months, 5 months, when they say the COVID is now gone and now we can start planning again? Or should we be looking at some events, functions, various things that we may want to do and maybe do some things in preparation for that? And when I approach it this way, what I'm looking at is just recently I realized that the township was fortunate enough to get some money, I guess, through the funds, through the COVID, and be able to purchase some plexiglass, which is used not only in the township hall, but I think there was some purchase for the benefit of the visitor center. Understand that was never installed because the visitor center is basically closed down. Is there a plan to go ahead now and perhaps, because even when the COVID is over, we're going to have to be taking a lot of precautions. And are we going to be ready to be up and running when this happens? So my question is, are we the plan to utilize that in the visitor center? Is there a plan to utilize some of it at the hall in Combermere around the bar? Because I understand that was probably what was considered when this was obtained. And so having it sitting in the back room is not going to do us any good. And I really think that there would be so much to do once we reach a point where there's no longer a threat, or we have to minimize it and with the rules as they are. But should we be considering, using this in the areas that I mentioned and perhaps any others that could be done? I have some other questions regarding the outdoor rinks and so on, but I'm just wondering if I could get you to respond to that.
Sure. So the plexiglass was purchased way back in, if I'm not mistaken, May or June. We were trying to find it at that point because we weren't sure that we could get it from some suppliers. So we reached out to a local supplier and he was able to get us, I'm not sure if it was 3 or 4 sheets. What I purchased it for was with the realization that we would need it down the road, likely. We weren't sure at that point what we were going to design. The railway station plexiglass has been installed. It is on the desk and it's a permanent type structure. Could be removed, but it is there, it's in place. So one of those sheets was used. The other ones we purchased thinking that if we opened a canteen at the arena, we might need something along those lines to cover that space. But the health unit told us not to open our canteens. The other piece was purchased for the Combermere Hall. The bar was the thought. If there was something that was going on at the hall and they needed a space where somebody needed to be protected due to COVID-19, the bar would be the most likely place that plexiglass would be placed. No, it hasn't been installed, and it hasn't been installed because I don't know when that room or building is going to be used for a function of that sort. And if it's required, I would like to be able to design it for what it is needed, what we should design it for. I didn't want to just install it going from one side of the bar to the other with the hopes that that's what we wanted. I left it to say, wait to see what the guidelines were down the road. But at one time, we weren't sure if we could get plexiglass. So that was why I ordered enough for each of the buildings that we had. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, Councillor Poplinsky.
Yeah, just a little clarification. So we do have the plexiglass there. It's in our building, in the PJY. And of course, I understand that people are using the hall right now for church services on a Sunday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I understand that we can have up to 50 people in that building, keeping distance. So we could have a function there, could we not?
We can't have 50 people. The limit upstairs is 39. The limit downstairs is 12.
Okay, so we can have 39 people.
Correct.
So we could be renting it out.
We are renting it out.
Okay, so with the plexiglass there, we've got a liquor license, have we not?
We do.
Okay, so could we have the plexiglass installed?
We could, sure.
Well, what do we need to do? Do I need to make a motion to do this?
No, I have no problem installing the plexiglass, Ernie. My only thought was I wanted to find out what the COVID guidelines were going forward. There's really no community center that I'm aware of, and maybe I'm wrong. I have a meeting at the end of this week. I can reach out and ask the colleagues that I have. I'm not sure that there's any type of events that you're referring to like that running right now. But I can ask other communities and see if there's something else. But on a small scale, yes, you're absolutely right. We could be running something at that hall.
I would like to suggest that we have a little meeting at the hall and involve our operational director and yourself and any other council members that would like to be there to look at going ahead and doing that. Okay. I also made reference in the last meeting about we have $1,000, I understand, in our budget to do some lighting or something there. I understand that hasn't been done. Could that be then also a consideration at that time? Okay. We are going to use the hall again at some point. I don't know when, but if we're not in a position, if we're not going to do the work that we should be doing as we're moving along, and even when we open, there's no harm in having that installed because that would be just good business down the road. That's all I'm saying, right? So if we could get an agreement that council is comfortable with, and we can have some staff meet there and look at that particular project, I would welcome that. So.
Yeah, I think that's something that's quite reasonable. I think the work could probably be done, but certainly I think holding any licensed events sanctioning any in our community halls right now would not look good for the municipality. So I wouldn't agree with that. Certainly, if we need a meeting, I think we could do that. Yes.
Okay, and we can leave that then, Mr. Wilmer, if you could, as Chairman of Recreation, sign along with our Director, Mr. Kuchkowski, if we could arrange the meeting, that would, I think, it'd be very timely. My question before, and I can put this off into unfinished business if you want, or questions now, is basically dealing with a few other issues, which it's in December and we have to be talking about outdoor rinks and so on. Was that something that you were going to address?
The outdoor rinks, yes. I had a meeting canceled last week that we were hoping to confirm some more guidelines for outdoor rinks. As far as I'm concerned, the health unit has given us our guidelines to follow, and I have every reason to believe that our outdoor rinks will be opening.
Okay. So is this a good time, Mr. Chair, to discuss this subject?
Yes, I think you
Okay.
can go ahead with those questions.
Okay, so as I say, we're already December the 1st. We're always this time of the year, and are we looking at utilizing the water out of the creek at the Combermere Rink this year? And if so, have we done any preliminary checking to make sure there's no trees in the way, which we've done in other years, and preparing that? Is that something that's been done, or is it going to be done this coming week?
It's been done. Yeah.
It's been done?
Public Works was over there. Yeah, Public Works has
Okay.
been there and they've taken care
Okay,
of that.
and do we have someone to manage the rink?
Yeah, Jamie will be managing the rink with the assistance of Darcy this year. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, if I may address the rink in Barry's Bay, is the intent still to open that one up?
As far as I'm concerned, yes, unless council gives other direction.
Okay, so having the employees at the rink during hockey rental periods and so on, how do we address the situation with washroom facilities and so on? Is that something that there's another plan coming down, or what's because there isn't always somebody there, and if we've got somebody using the rink throughout the day and 7 days a week, what is the plan? Are we looking at an outdoor toilet rental, or what is the plan?
In Barry's Bay, we've never had washroom access. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, there've been functions at the rink there where people have gone inside and used the facilities. But now if we're not open for the public at the arena, except during rental times, then the expectation that there's going to be no facilities available for them. Is that correct?
That's right. I wasn't under the understanding that people went around to use the washrooms while they were at the outdoor rink. I apologize. Yeah, no, that back door that is closest to the rink at the arena has always been locked. And if they did use the washroom, they'd have to go around to the front door. So yes, you're right. Our guidelines right now say that we are locking our doors in between rentals so that the public doesn't enter at the arena.
Okay, so no, my question is, how are people going to, are they going to just go outside and use the fence post, or, I mean, I don't know, but it's something that, you know, it's been put to me, so I'm asking the question because I want to know what the plan is. You know, it's, if we can't provide that situation, then maybe we have to reconsider opening the rink. And it would, because that's outdoor activity, which is probably people can enjoy in a very safe way and so on. So I would hate to see that happen. Okay. My other question was that the last meeting there was discussion about, in lieu of having the parade and so on, that there was other things happening with lighting. And could you sort of refresh my memory as to what exactly you've got planned for the Christmas period?
So I put out the Madawaska Valley Holiday Lights Tour, which will run from the 14th to the 20th of December. And I'm inviting residents and businesses to put their pictures forward to our website, well, to our Facebook page through myself. And I'm creating a map that I just posted online today. So the map is available for the people who've submitted their addresses and photographs online. And then during the week of the 14th to the 20th, I'm planning on opening a voting online, and then there'll be prizes awarded. The hope was to decorate outdoor spaces with lights and have a driving tour, capping that driving tour off on the 18th of December with an event at the railway station. And I was working with the Madawaska Valley Lions Club to help plan that event. I met with them this past week.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie.
All right. Are there any other councillors who have questions on the report? I mean, where do we want to go with this? You know, we're looking for direction. I'm not sure where we want to go. Mayor Love.
Thank you. Yes, I think we have to come back to the arena, and we have some decisions to make so that we can provide council with, or provide, sorry, staff with some direction from council on what to proceed with in terms of the very necessary renovations and repairs that are needed at the arena facility. So we certainly all know that the priority item is the $1,190,000 replacement of the ice slab and the items that are identified in the first section as priority items. So at this point, we know that has to happen. So that's you know, in my humble opinion, that's the starting position. We then have to have a discussion about what other items we feel are necessary to do at this facility in order to ensure that we've addressed some of the concerns with how it's functioning, with safety, and also the fact that it's 40 years old and not a lot of money's been put into it over those 40 years, and a lot of the materials and the fixtures and I don't know what you want to call them, but the walls and the flooring and everything, they're at a point where they're done and they do need to be addressed. So, I mean, I think it's super important that we have that discussion. We start that discussion today at the very least, and we give some direction, because this decision is going to have a huge impact on how much money we need to borrow to achieve this project. And that then will have an impact on what kind of payment we'll be looking at annually. And that has an impact on next year's, potentially next year's, and every year after that's budget. So I guess we need to have that discussion, Chair, and come to some decisions about what we're going to do at the arena. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Love. And I think, first of all, the priority items we have to do if we want to keep, if our decision is to keep the arena up and operating, which I believe is what we do want to do. So there's that 1.19 budget for those items. I really feel, in addition to those, we should be looking at the plant upgrade. And those items, there's 3 of them come up to another 270,000. I think those are important if we're looking at the overall, just getting our plant and facility up and operating and making good ice. So those are my bigger concerns. The COVID additions are nice additions. Some of them would help save energy, certainly make it a lot safer during the COVID period, but we're hopeful the COVID period isn't with us forever. Those we can look at and see whether we really need them all. And then as we go down, some of the other ones are as I said earlier, quite far out, and are not actually, many of them aren't even sort of, I don't think they're absolutely necessary when we get into outdoor electronic signs, things like this. To me, those are not the absolute needed ones right now. What is needed is to be able to use that arena, make good ice, and have a good, safe environment in the facility. So that's where I think we should be going. Mary Love.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question because I noticed that part of our priority items is replacing the boards. It's a component of replacing the ice slab. Is there any reason why barrier-free viewing area bleachers, is the barrier the boards, or is this something to do with the bleachers?
No, so originally when I had written that grant application in 2019, I worked with the engineer and told him that I thought maybe adding accessibility would help in our arena and may look favorably on our grant application. So he helped me with a plan to, if we wanted to, and again, this has all been dependent on whether or not the grant was approved. It was actually taking out a part of a section of bleachers to create a platform. So that people who are wheelchair require that accessibility to view the games, and they wouldn't have to just view from below the board level. So it would just be an elevated area.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that was what I was trying to understand. Was it actually lowering the glass part of the board somewhere so they could actually see, or if it was creating a different place for them to be able to go to see over the existing board? So you're saying it's creating a place where the wheelchair accessibility would be able to go up to in order to see over the existing boards. Okay, right. I wanted to see if that could be combined, and it can't, obviously. I certainly concur with the chair that the from our discussions that we have had in terms of the plant upgrades, those seem to be quite necessary to ensure we have a well-functioning facility. Will the dehumidifiers include spacing them out so they function better? That's my next question.
That is the plan.
Okay,
yeah,
so
we
that
have to look at the structures that they're sitting on and make sure that they are still viable. But yes.
Okay, so that dehumidification working better could also assist us in ensuring that the structural integrity is maintained over an extended period of time, because humidity is obviously a huge factor in whether or not you've got corrosion forming.
That's right.
All right, the only other thing I said, I thought to myself that would be absolutely necessary would be to do the building masonry repairs, because masonry that isn't repaired just continues to deteriorate. So, and that's just a $20,000 item. So if I was to look at my bare minimum list, I've got the priority items, the plant upgrades, and the masonry as the bare minimum. And so that was, where I was prepared to start from.
And I agree with that. And I think we also have to look at the 155,000 that's included in the structural review, just to look to see if there are any items there that need to be addressed immediately too. Yes. That's the only thing I'd add, but I really would agree with that. And I think on top of that, we also need to come up with, we're going to be borrowing a lot of money, and I think we should only borrow with what is absolutely necessary. And I think what we have identified right now as the priority, the additional or the plant upgrades, the perhaps masonry and any structural items, would be a good start. I think many of the other items can be dealt with if we have a plan. Like when we do this work, we need to have a plan that every year we're going to pick and perhaps add. As I said, some of these are year 2025 or even 2033. But if we leave them, those dates creep up on you really quickly. So I think in addition to deciding what we're doing now, we need to make sure that these just don't get put off the list and disappear. They have to remain on a spreadsheet somewhere so we can see what we need to do and how we are going to maintain that arena for the next 40 years.
I agree. And the only thing I would like to add, sorry about that, with the COVID additions, there was an upgrade to the refrigeration room exhaust system. I would like to see that pushed forward, I believe, through as well, if that is something that council wouldn't mind considering including, just for the refrigeration room, as it's sort of a plant upgrade.
Stephanie, is that also a health and safety issue?
I believe it would be, yes.
Yeah, so that one may be important too, and that could be included under the plant upgrade. We could put that in. Councillor Poplinski.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if someone, all of the things that have been mentioned about the surface and the other items along with that, and just wondering if somebody could give me a figure, an approximation of how much this is going to cost. I don't want to run into budget time and find that this is sitting on the table and we have to make a decision today to spend millions of dollars. So I'd like to know up front and what else we can do.
Quick calculations, it comes to about 1.5 million for those items.
Okay. Do we have 1.5 million sitting in our reserve to do this? No, I don't imagine we do.
No.
So the money has to come from somewhere, and it's obviously,
Borrow it.
unless we can come up with a fundraising scheme where we can start putting some money aside. They do it for the hospital, they do it for the Valley Manor, they do it many places. I don't know whether that's allowed, but we need to look at something.
The problem with this is money that should have been put aside over the last 30 years. So we're in a situation where we don't have any.
Yeah.
After this work is done, we should be putting money aside, but it'll be going for the complete renovation of a new facility or something later, because if we go another 40 years or 30 years with these type of renovations, we will have a facility that is finished at that end of that life cycle. So, you know, there's more than just the amount we have to spend now. What we're spending now should have been put into reserves a long time ago. What we have to make sure is that we, as this council, don't allow this to be repeated in the future, so that next for council in 30 years from now won't be sitting and saying, look, they should have done something. So that's part of the whole situation we're in. You know, we're in a situation where we need a minimum of 1.5 million now. We don't have it, and we have to make sure we start developing good practices for the future of that arena. Councillor Poplinski.
Yeah, one more comment. All I can say is that this council, just like especially the last council, was very, very instrumental in looking at all expenses and cutting back on areas that was considered boondoggles and everything else. So don't attack this council or the last council, because as long as I'm on the council and the others think likewise, we cannot keep sticking it to the taxpayers. So
I'm not attacking any
let's be honest about this.
I'm not attacking any council.
And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, we have to raise the taxes. So 30 years down the road, somebody else is going to benefit. We won't have an arena. We won't have people living here. We got people that can't pay the taxes now because of the COVID and other conditions.
I agree that we have to be very fiscally prudent. And I think that's why we're trying to have a discussion today to look at what are the absolute things that are necessary to do if we want to maintain an arena. I am thinking we don't want to spend an additional dollar anywhere that isn't needed. And all I am saying is this council has to avoid some of the issues from the past where no money was put aside into a reserve. Simple as that. Okay, Mayor Love?
Oh, good. My mic's on. Yes. So I think one of the challenges we've seen, if we look back over the last few, either the last two councils or the last few budgets, is that while money has begun to be put aside, things have begun to break. So the money that was set aside had to be used to fix fairly significant items, replace. I think one of the things was about an $80,000 electrical panel that had to be replaced. We are in a position now where if we do not decide to proceed with this, we might as well just shut down the arena in terms of it being an ice surface, because any day now, today, tomorrow, in a year, not too many more than a year or two at maximum, the goo is going to give and the ice is going to go out. We cannot continue to rely on sticking crud in our pipes that's going to block them up so we can make ice. We have to make a very difficult decision here. And that decision involves borrowing the money to do the necessary job to this arena. There will be a payment we will have to make. That will have a budgetary impact. There's no doubt about that. But at the bare minimum, as Councillor Wilmer has indicated, we need at least $1.5 million, and we need to borrow it because we don't have it in reserves. We haven't saved for that. And, you know, I think it would have been very difficult to do that. Yes, we have to acknowledge that there are taxpayers who are stressed. But we also have to acknowledge that our community feels that this building is important, that it has a significant place in the fabric of our community. So what are we going to do? We can't put this off any longer. We have to move forward. I don't see any other solution. We have to borrow the money and make the payment. We also need to put in place a plan to deal with the things that have been identified that are going to need to be done in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. We know they're going to need to be done. We can't wish it away. At some point, we're going to have to do something with those dressing rooms. At some point, we're going to have to do something with the kitchen upstairs. At some point, many of these things are going to have to be addressed. So that's why I'm asking for a plan for the minor maintenance items, a plan that shows us the major maintenance items that can be identified across these studies that we've commissioned in order to know what the future holds, and then that we give some direction to staff today to move forward to get this done, because otherwise we'll be the council left holding the bag when the ice goes out. I don't want to be in that position. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Councillor Pawlinski, did you have your hand? No. All right. So I think we've identified some things that we feel is a major. I don't know whether Amanda is there, whether she can give us some details on what it would look like to borrow the amount of money that we're saying is the minimum required, but if she is, perhaps she could give us some guidance.
Hi. Sorry. So I am working from home, so I don't, let's see if I have access to my desktop here. I did save the last time when I had reported to council on what the debenture schedule would look like. Oh.
I have that here in front of me.
Do you?
So she had done 1.4 million over.
Can you speak up a bit, Stephanie?
Sorry.
Thank
She had
you.
done 1.4 million over 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 years. So it was 1.4% was the 10-year, and the payment per year was 155,000. That was for 10 years. And then it went up a little bit in interest rate for every increment of 5. So for 15 years, it was 1.7%, and the payment per year was 109. And then 20 years, 1.95, and the payment per year was 87.
So that is the interest rate, the 1.4, the 1.7?
That's
That
right.
would be like a tax levy, what our tax levy would look like.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about that. So that,
The tax levy was the next category over. I'm not sure.
Okay, let me see if I can pull it up.
Maybe we should wait till you get it.
Trying to find it here. Sorry, the remote connection is pretty slow.
If I may, through the chair, while Amanda's trying to get that. So the action item that I am summarizing from this discussion is that staff provide council for budget deliberations spreadsheet that would depict minor items and health and safety items that are deemed essential. Add the major items that are deemed essential, and then include for council what cost of borrowing would be based on those sections, and council would make those decisions once they had that information. Would that be a first step?
I think that would be a very good step, and that would be coming back for budget discussion.
Yes.
Mayor Love?
I'd like to be clear that the minor maintenance and safety items are items that our staff could be doing. So
And they are.
and that I think needs to be identified across these multiple reports. As I said, things like replacing door sweeps, caulking, and siding repairs.
Yes.
The major items are the ones that we need to see on a spreadsheet that are identified. When you see something that has a $100,000 price tag and it needs to be done in 5 years is the estimate. That's what I'd like to see on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I don't believe we can have any expectation of this project actually being done between April and September of 2021 if we're going to wait until budget in order to make this decision. Yes, it would be nice to know the impact it will have, but I come back to the fact that this project needs to be got underway. Money will have to be borrowed. We don't have an alternative here that we can fall back on because we don't have enough money in reserves to cover $1.5 million. So I'm not sure why waiting for budget is going to help. It's going to defer this project another year, leaving us open to that possibility that the ice won't go in 2021 because the plant is done. So I'd rather see a recommendation from council made much more quickly than that. I can understand this is a difficult decision, but if we're not giving direction to staff very shortly, nothing's going to get done for 2021 because there won't be time.
I do agree with that too. I think the faster we can move on this or bring it back for discussion at council, the better off we are. Sue?
The next council meeting is December 16th. Are you proposing we bring something for that meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that's putting it on the table, and then council, if they're not in agreement, will have a chance to cast their decision at that time. Mayor Love?
Yes, I think that, as I said, I think the matter is urgent, but bringing it to the next council meeting gives the public a chance to digest the reports in this agenda, to consider the discussion that council has had today. And I'm sure that we will, if there is public input, it will be coming back to us hopefully in time for that meeting. And should there be public input, I think council needs to be aware of that. It is a factor in this decision, certainly. Thank you.
All right, so I think we have direction then.
Yes, we
Sue?
have an action item. We're fine with that. Thank you.
Okay, do we need to read any recommendation or anything from today?
Yes, I would like council to accept the structural report so that council accepts the Paul J. Yakabuski Community Center Structural Adequacy Review and Update Report as information.
Okay, can I have a mover on that? Mayor Love, and I'll second it. All those in favor? We're just accepting. Okay, carried. All right, I think, okay, where am I? All right, we do not have any correspondence or information, and there's no unfinished business. So that ends the recreation portion, and I'll turn over the chair back to Mayor Love.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So we have done our planning section, and we will move into finance and administration. Just give me 1 second to figure out where that is. Ah, here we are. Okay, good. All right, finance and administration municipal reports. So what council has received from the Joint Municipal Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee is a resolution dated November 26, 2020. This resolution of committee basically simply states that we are making this recommendation to the participating municipalities that no further financial contributions be made to physician recruitment in 2021. And that the committee not be hiring a physician recruiter, and that no financial contribution will be made to the services of a physician recruiter in 2021, and that the committee will be dissolved at the end of 2021. We are providing council with this resolution because we had a very intense discussion about an exit strategy. As council is aware, from the previous council meeting, there was a letter from Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards indicating that they would like to leave physician recruitment at the end of December in 2020. In our discussions about what our exit strategy looks like, the key to what we were looking to do was come up with what the committee is proposing in terms of how things would be addressed after the committee is dissolved, because one municipality will be left with the responsibility for dealing with physician recruitment. That municipality would not be accepting any financial any requirement to make financial contributions to physician recruitment, but it was to understand how to deal with the payments that need to be made to candidates that remain on the books for the next few years, how to deal with should there be an issue with any of the medical services agreements, those sorts of things. So it requires us coming up with an exit strategy that addresses everything that could happen in the future and provides direction to that remaining municipality. And pretty much that municipality will be Madawaska Valley. We are the municipality that has held the books for physician recruitment probably for as long as physician recruitment has been in existence. So I'm very keen to ensure that there's clear direction from the partner municipalities, that we all agree to what the exit strategy looks like, that councils have an opportunity to read our exit strategy and agree to it as well. That's a lot of work to do by December 30th or December 31st, 2020. So Mayor Janice TJ is going back to her council to request that they will stay in physician recruitment for 2021 under the conditions that we would accept this resolution. Because it would meet their requirements at this point. And that will give the committee a full year to complete some of the work that we have underway and are hoping to make announcements on shortly, but also to develop a very good, solid exit strategy. So this is why the resolution has come before you. It will enable the Council of Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards to be comfortable with remaining in the group for one more year. The terms of reference are very specific, and they do not allow for one of the municipalities to step away. It only speaks to if we dissolve. So here we are, we're working towards doing this well, but this is the resolution that will give comfort to one of the partners and allow us to do a proper exit strategy. So that's why it's brought before council. And what I would like is council approval of the recommendation if council agrees with the steps that have been identified. So I guess I will ask, is there any comments, questions from council? Councillor Schulist.
Yes, I would like to move this recommendation. That's okay.
Okay, you would move that we accept the recommendation of the Physician Recruitment Committee. Sue, is this how we
That's
would
right,
do
yes.
this? Do we do it by resolution?
Yes, I will read it out if you
Okay.
may. If you,
Please.
through the chair, that council accepts the following joint municipal physician recruitment and retention committee resolution, that the joint municipal physician recruitment and retention committee recommends to the participating municipalities that no further financial contributions be made to physician recruitments in 2021, and that the joint municipal physician recruitment and retention committee will not be hiring a physician recruiter, and that no financial contribution will be made to the services of a physician recruiter as of 2021, and that the Joint Municipal Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee will be dissolved at the end of 2021.
Okay, Councillor Schulist, are you good moving that recommendation?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Could I get a seconder, please? Councillor Wilmer, is there any discussion on the recommendation? Any questions at all? As I say, there will be some announcements. We do have some good news coming, but until it's finalized, I can't speak of it. But we are trying to complete our job to the best of our ability and do the best we can for our community here. If there's nothing further, I guess I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you very much that I can go back to committee and let them know that Madawaska Valley's Council is comfortable with that. Now, Sue, this was a standing committee recommendation. Will I have to wait? I guess I can inform them that pending the approval of the minutes of this meeting at the next council meeting, council concurs with the recommendation. Can I do that?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. I will do that. All right, correspondence and information. First, we have, I can find it, a letter from the town of Mono dated November 25th, 2020 regarding the Schedule 6 of Bill 229, open letter to the Honorable Sylvia Jones, MPP for Dufferin-Caledon. Any comments or discussion from council on that item? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll accept it as information. The next one is Municipality of Grey Highlands, November 18th, 2020, Re-COVID-19 Act, Schedule 6. Again, the same schedule in regards to conservation authorities. Any comments, discussion from council on this item?
No, it's the same.
Yeah, seeing none, we'll accept it as information as well. Next is the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund 2021 Workbook, dated November 2020. Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund 2021 Northern and Rural Municipal Fiscal Circumstances Index Workbook. And this is what led to the actual amount that Madawaska Valley is receiving in 2021, which is $1,624,200. Are there any questions from council on this information or any comments? My only comment would be it's nice to see details of how this is actually calculated and broken down. I don't know that we've always received this information, and I don't recall seeing it before. So it is really good to see a little bit of transparency in how the OMPF is calculated being provided to council so that we have the information. I do appreciate it. Okay, next item is a letter from Craig and Jude Kelly dated November 27th, 2020, regarding St. Paul's Anglican Church property located on Mill Street in Combermere. Any comments or discussion from council on this item? I'm not seeing any. Sue, is there any action item that's required at this point on this item?
No, I don't believe so. It's they are communicating with staff as to the next steps, and we don't have anything further to bring to council at this time.
Okay. All right. Then seeing nothing, I guess that we will accept that as information as well. And finally, the addition to correspondence is the email from David Henstock dated November 17th, 2020 regarding 1050 Mill Street. Any comments or discussion from council on this item? Again, I see nothing, so I guess we will accept it as information. And Sue, was there anything further that you felt needed to be addressed on this item, just to verify?
No, I just wanted to advise council that the deputy treasurer and I have both spoken to Mr. Henstock, and I did confirm that we would put it add it to the correspondence following our discussions for public interest.
Okay, thank you. All right, that completes our correspondence. Under unfinished business, we have a letter from Templeman dated November 27th, 2020 regarding the Township of Madawaska Valley at Sulphur, file number 58981. Sue, did you want to speak to this at all? It's pretty straightforward, but.
Yes, it was. I wanted to confirm what we could release in the press at this point. So basically, the parties to this action have reached a settlement in principle, which has not yet been approved by the court. Once it has been and the matter is finalized, the township will make a further statement. And I have affirmed with Templeman that council will be requesting a detailed statement at that time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any comments or questions or discussion by council? I certainly look forward to when we are able to, complete this process and make a further statement. It will be wonderful to tick a box and complete one item.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We are then at this point at the end of the standing committee portion of the meeting. I'm wondering if council, I know it's 12:17, but I'm wondering if council would like to take a lunch break, noting that we are doing an in-camera session at 1. I know Gwen won't be happy if we do that.
Could I
'Cause she
suggest,
prefers,
Jim,
yes?
could I suggest that we move to go into in-camera? And then take
Okay.
a break once we're in camera and then resume the meeting at 1 o'clock. So just for the people that are watching, they'd have a better idea of when we might be coming back. Just,
Okay, because I don't think we can actually achieve a lunch break and get through all these bylaws. I'm a little concerned that's a fair amount of distance we have to go. I don't know, council, what do you feel? Do you want to try to get through bylaws before it might be a very short lunch break, that's all.
No.
No, okay. All right, so with council's indulgence, what I'll do then is I will take us in camera. We will do bylaws after we complete our in-camera session at 1 o'clock. So the recommendation is that the meeting enter in-camera session to discuss matters pertaining to the security of the property of the municipality or local board, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, Ontario Municipal Act 2001, Chapter 25, Section 239, 2A, B, and F. Number 1 is Templeman LLP, mutual full and final release document, re wastewater plant update court file. Number 2, Wishart Law Firm update, re court file number CV-19-00082269-0000. Number 3, Lakewood subdivision default, re treasurer report, re CAO clerk report verbal. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poplinski, seconded by Councillor Schulist. All those in favor? And that's carried. We are in camera.